All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Chelsea Collie here. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We have a really exciting guest today. Welcome, Rachel. All
Hi,
right.
Chelsea. Thanks for having me.
Morning, everyone, and welcome. Sorry. Great. I am so happy to have you here and keep giving a little pop-up on my Zoom, but it seems like we're connected, so we're just going to roll with it.
Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you, and there's no interruption, so we'll roll with it.
We'll do it. We're so efficient, and we're also you're super laid back and cool. So thank you for being so awesome.
Of course. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've seen you recently interviewed with Right on Radio, and I saw you somewhere else, and I know you've done several interviews with Tom Numbers, and it's just great to see you getting out there more and hearing more of your story. From what I heard, your story is really incredible and serendipitous, and it's just like all of these things had to align in a certain way to get you to where you are now, which is like the content director for George 2.0. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, absolutely. It's funny that you use the word serendipitous, because serendipity is one of my favorite words. And I don't know have you seen that movie with yeah, I always used to love that movie too, and I thought it was insane. But now that it feels like I'm living that movie where you're just meeting the right people, you're in the right place at the right time, and I'm just honoring what is being put in front of me. And I keep saying it over and over again, but the only reason I'm here, the only explanation is literally God. There's no other explanation. So I keep saying it. And, I don't know if your listeners have heard my story or not, but I woke up in 2020, like a lot of people did during the height of, what went down in 2020. I don't know if this is going on YouTube, so I don't want to say any buzzwords that are.
It is on YouTube. We're live on YouTube.
Okay, well then I will not say any buzzwords here. But we all know what happened in 2020. And I realized that the media, what I was hearing coming out of Donald Trump's mouth and what the media was repeating later on that night is not the same. And that really got me thinking and researching. I always knew the media was biased, but I didn't realize just how bad it had gotten. I'm a mom, I'm living my life. I'm working full time. So I don't really take time to look at these things. And so 2020 was a gift for all of us because it gave us the time and the need to look into these things and actually wake up to what is really happening in front of us. So, 2021, I started seeing 4s and 7s everywhere. And this is where I kind of sound like a crazy person, but it's part of my story. So I'm going to say it. I started seeing 4s and 7s everywhere. Thought I was going crazy. I told my family about this. We went on a little getaway to Branson, Missouri. And I told my sisters, hey, I keep seeing all these 4s and 7s. I think I'm losing it. And my sisters are like, you've always been the weird one. So probably you are. I'm like, oh, whatever, I'm going to go for a walk. What's the code to get back into this place? And my sister's like, it's 4747. And I thought she was messing with me at first. I'm like, stop it. She's like, no, I'm serious. It's 4747. So I had no clue. I just thought it was a weird quirk, maybe it was the reticular activator. I'm seeing it more because I'm looking for it more. If you think of a red car, all of a sudden you start seeing red cars everywhere. So I was very well aware of what that meant, but this was far beyond that. And then around the same time, I was cleaning out a basement for this man who had dementia. His adult children didn't want to come back to his apartment to clean out, or his townhome to clean out his basement, which was just full of stuff. And I was looking through a tote and going through and throwing stuff away that, was just garbage. And I found the inaugural issue of George magazine, the one with Cindy Crawford on the front. Obviously, I kept that thing. I did not let it get thrown away. And that's what started the whole George collection. And prior to that, I had done a little research on George, and it always intrigued me. The Survival Guide to the Future had always intrigued me for obvious reasons, because it talked about 2020 and a virus. And I won't go into detail because we're on YouTube. So very, very interesting coincidences in that magazine. So to find that magazine, this inaugural, issue in a basement was quite shocking. And that really got me. Okay, well, I have this one, so why don't I go get the, a different one? And I did get the Survival Guide to the Future. I got the JFK Jr. tribute issue, and then I just started adding to the collection from there. And then October of 2021, I went to a Patriot event here in Des Moines. I'm in Iowa, and there was a Patriot event I went to, and Tom Numbers, of all people, walks right in front of me. And just probably a month prior to that, I had learned what gematria was and figured out that Rachel, my name, is 47 in gematria and Jesus is 74. And I really, when I saw that, when I realized it, it was just like one of those moments where you just like, you're shocked that, holy cow, this is crazy. I feel like God is trying to speak to me through these numbers because they were so obvious, all the time. So of all people, I meet the person who teaches me what the 4s and 7s could have meant. And he's in Des Moines, Iowa, of all places. He lives in the UK. So we started talking, and we went to another event in Vegas. 107 was there. There were a lot of really great speakers there. And I thought, after that October event, I'm going to do something. I've been wanting to start a blog or do something just to just get this information out in some way. Because when you find out the truth, the first thing you want to do is share it with everybody. And then you quickly realize you can't do that because everyone thinks you're insane. So I thought, okay, I'll just start a blog, which is why my name is Writeside Blonde with a WRITE, because I was just going to be a blogger. And that was it. Then never going to show my face or anything like that. Then Tom's like, no, why don't you come on a show with me, and you got to show your face. It'll be fine. So here I am. And in the meantime, I kept collecting the George magazines, and I started a show on YouTube called The George Collection on my YouTube channel, which is Writeside Blonde, WRITESID. And I just did episode 47 last Friday. So I've done it 47 times, 47 different shows, and gone through these George magazines, sharing different bits of information, whether it's just an article that's pertaining to current events, or if it's a weird coincidence that, is so pinpointed that it seems like it couldn't have been a coincidence. It was meant to be that way. And people have, really enjoyed it. And then, I feel like I'm rambling, but I'm just sharing how I ended up here because it's just so crazy. All of 2022, I went on no trips. I didn't go to any other events, Patriot events, or anything like that, conventions, until I went to the Virginia Beach Reawaken tour. So I decided to go to that. And the second day, Gene Ho was on stage, and I look up behind him and there's a George magazine. And by this time I had like maybe 30 episodes on my YouTube channel, and I have a moderate following. I don't have a huge following yet. I'm just doing it because I find it interesting. And I thought someone else will probably find this interesting, because if they're into the George magazines and they're intrigued like I have been, they'll watch my show and they'll maybe get something out of it. So to walk in and see a George magazine and hear Gene Ho, who is Donald Trump's former photographer, his campaign photographer back in 2016. So he was around at the height of that first election. To hear him say that George magazine was going to come back, I was just elated. So I went out in the hallway, and I was standing between the booths, Gene Ho's booth, and then behind me was Michael Marone's booth, and he's the cover artist, the new cover artist for the new George. I'm standing in between those two booths, and someone comes up to me and says, "You're Writeside Blonde." It was the first time I'd ever been recognized by my YouTube channel name or online name like that. And so I thought that was just incredibly odd that I'm in between the new George, between Gene Ho and Michael Marone, and someone recognizes me for the first time as Writeside Blonde. So I met Gene that day. I got his number. I started texting him. I sent him some samples of my YouTube channel and then some other writing. I wrote for the newspaper here in Iowa probably 5 years ago. It's been a while, but on a different topic. So I could write. I've been published before in a statewide newspaper. So I did know how to write too. That's another thing, you got to find people that know how to write and research, and it's tough, and also know the truth and what's going on. So I sent him all of that. And then initially I was just going to be a contributor, and I was going to write articles about the old George magazines in the new George magazines and talk about the things I've found. And over the course of a few months, I've kind of taken on this role as the content director, and I've created a workflow. And I told you before, right before, I'm like, we're getting this schedule down. John Kennedy Jr. said it was hell getting the first magazine out. And I know why, because it's just a ton of planning. And, their advertising was a night and day difference between what we have. And we're literally working with a skeleton crew. We have like 5 people. They had a whole everything. So it's been different. It's been really hard, but it's been really rewarding. All of us got into this thinking, not knowing if this would ever work out. Like, we could put in all this work up front and then it just completely flops and we lose everything. And all the time that we put into it could have been for nothing. But all of us took on that risk, and we're happy to see it still, after 3 issues, we're still rolling, and we still have incredible plans for the future. And I think a lot of people will find George to be a safe haven to come forward and share information that they might have, whether it's political or, medical information, or human rights type things, education, all of these things. They know that they can share their truth in George Magazine. It will not be taken down, it will not be censored, because we're George Magazine, and that's what we are. We're not affiliated with anybody. Nobody owns us. We are our own entity, and we intend to keep it that way, which makes us incredibly powerful and different from the mainstream media. So I know that me and everyone else involved wants to keep it that way. And if anything were to ever happen in the future where someone would want to buy us or something like that, which I don't see happening, there'd have to be some very, very strict stipulations in place that they cannot direct our content one way or shift what we can and can't say, because that would be that. Then what are we doing? We're going right back to what the mainstream media is doing. So we want to be different. And the original George magazines, that's what they did. They published information about all different kinds of people: Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, Johnny Depp was on the cover, Tom Hanks was on the cover of some of these magazines. So he published information about a lot of different prominent figures, and he let the public figure out what they wanted to believe. He let them figure out how they felt about that person. So that's what we're lacking in this country. I feel like we're just being told what to think and what to feel. And people aren't used to using their brain, thinking, okay, I'm going to look at this person and try to use my own discernment to figure out how I feel or what I should get out of this interview. So it's been interesting. It's been very challenging, but I like challenges. I would never have taken this on if I didn't. And I know that every single person that's involved in this project has the same mentality. We're all business minded. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all tough. But we all recognize our need for each other to make this successful too. So it's been a fun project.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, what prompted the restart?
That's a good question.
I mean, you literally said that Gene Ho just happened. That event that you were at, that was the event that Gene Ho literally said that we are relaunching George Magazine on stage at Reawakened.
Yes. Now that's the first time I had heard him say it. I think he might have mentioned it earlier, but that's the first time that I mentioned it, and I happened to be there. So when I was there that day, that's when I thought was the first time he said it, but I think he did mention it in a previous event.
Gotcha.
But no, Gene was approached by someone to be the editor-in-chief of the new George. I'm not privy to a lot of the upper echelon information. What I know is that Gene was approached and he willingly accepted the challenge. And then it was up to him to try to find the right team to put this together. And here we are. So I know a lot of people have speculations, and, you know, I do too, but, you know, I guess we'll find out one day what the full story is with that.
It just reminds me like how, many of us have heard like Donald Trump was approached
Yeah, that's true.
to
I
do
never
what
put
he
those two
did.
together.
Yeah. And yeah, he took on a major role. So
Yes, he did.
yeah, Godspeed on you are gonna have to be tough because this is a major role.
It is. I was talking to Dave. Dave Blaze is our managing editor, and he's also he manages our website. So he started he started out as our IT guy, and now he's our managing editor because he'll appreciate me saying this. He is a go-getter in a way that you would expect a New Yorker to get stuff done. When I first met Dave, I was like, "Ooh, he's tough. Like he's tough." Now we talk every day, and I appreciate his personality style, because if we didn't have him in charge, I don't think much would get done. You know, Gene's out there promoting the magazine, which is his job as the editor in chief, and he's kind of making sure that the ship is sailing. But we need someone day to day to keep the ship running and making sure that we have enough supplies and the right people on board. So Dave's been wonderful. It's just interesting because we're all across the country. I'm in Iowa, grew up on a farm. And then you've got Dave, who he's over in New York, and he's got the New York accent. He's tough. We've got Michael in Florida. We've got people in the, Northeast. And then we also have our lawyers out in California. And Gene's in Arkansas. So we're all across the country. And, none of us can just go to the next person's office, one office over. We're all communicating via Zoom, through online emails. So sometimes it can be tough to figure out how someone meant something, especially if you've never met them in person, you don't know their personality. You're like, was that like, were they being mean, or no, they're they're just direct. So then you realize, okay, no, that's just the way they are. So it's been an interesting, fun, and challenging project so far. And I think we're all very proud of how far we've come so far. But like I said, we have a lot of wonderful things coming in the future that all of us are really looking forward to.
Awesome. And does Gene take the photos since he's a photographer, or does someone else do that?
So right now, just because we are still a skeleton crew, Gene has taken photos of some of the featured articles. So like Sheila Holm, Charlie Ward, Diamond and Silk, which rest in peace, Diamond. That is so sad. I just heard she passed away. That's so sad. Their book is amazing, by the way. If anyone is watching this and you want a good book to read, their story is amazing. And I read that book because I was doing an article about them for the November issue. And I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to know their story. And that book touched me in ways I did not expect it to. I mean, it just kind of spoke to me. So I feel like that was another one of those things I had to read it, because just as a creator, you feel like, oh, if you monetize, then you're a sellout or something, like it's bad. And, they said something like, Donald Trump wants us to be successful. He wants us to be entrepreneurs. He wants us to be business minded, because that's what America is. We're a capitalist country, and that's the way it should be. So if you make money, now there's a difference between someone who's earning what they've earned versus a grifter. So there's a big difference between that. And in my fear of being labeled that, it's led me to not make any money for a whole, like, over a year. And so I think people see these things on YouTube and they think, oh, they're making all this money. They're not. And I personally think that the term grifter came from either an infiltrator or someone on the left that has deterred people from wanting to earn money so that they don't work as hard, because nobody could sustain that. Most people have to work 9 to 5, and then they can't spend an extra 6 hours editing a video every week. Luckily, I like to stay up late, so that's how I got mine done. But that book was really, just what they said in their book about he wanted us to be successful. He wanted us to be millionaires. And that was one thing that really stood out. Their story of faith has been incredible too. And my heart goes out to Silk because I know how much Diamond meant to her. They were best friends and sisters. And I told them, I'm like, you guys are so lucky you have each other through this time in history, because a lot of people are completely alone. They don't have their sister. They don't have a best friend that they can, bounce ideas or just rant with. So, and they recognize that. And so it's really a sad day for Silk. My heart goes out to her, and I'm definitely keeping her. We all are at George, keeping her in our prayers. I know Jean and them were very, very close. So.
Yeah, very sad. And I just find it odd, like no one's mentioned how she passed. Like not even Trump.
Yeah, I have not heard how she passed either. 100%. So
yeah.
I don't know.
It's very sad. And
yeah,
my conspiracy brain is like, is she really gone? Like I hope she's not, but it's like
I know.
It's like we don't know. Yeah, we don't know the answers. We're just all trying to figure it out too.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people, especially on Truth Social, have been saying, I can't believe that you'd feature this person or feature that person. And it seems like everyone in our movement has somebody they cannot stand. So whoever we put in the magazine, 50% will love them, 50% will hate them. And then the rest of the world has no idea who they are, because they're not awake. So they don't pay attention to that person anyway. I think it's important for everyone to realize that we're getting towards the end. At least I hope we are. Yeah. And people we thought maybe in the beginning of this journey, we thought they were bad because of XYZ. They might actually be good. Or there might be people that were good in the beginning and then have flipped and now they're bad. So I think it's time for people to reassess what they thought. It's really not hard for people to infiltrate and make allegations against people. Look at what Donald Trump has gone through. All these allegations, all these witch hunts, and nothing has come of them. And the same thing could be true for some of these truthers that are out there sharing the truth. If they have a big enough following, why wouldn't they be targeted by these people that are, out to make them look like they're, whatever, something bad? Or so it's kind of foggy right now, and people need to take a step back and realize that there's a lot going on right now that we don't know. Like you just said, we don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know. And I think this time is a good time to reflect on what we thought we knew, but then also to remember that we should never put our trust in man anyway. Our trust should always be in God only, because that is men will always let you down. Man, not saying just men, I'm saying people on earth, men and women, will always let you down. God is the one you should put your faith in anyway. So this is a good time when things are so confusing and you're trying to use your discernment and things aren't crystal clear. Have faith in knowing that the truth will come out, justice will be served, and that God is who you should be putting your trust in only, just God. Not stop putting your trust in men and women and idolizing these people. They are just people. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And also, this is of course not confirmed because we don't have proof. Like we can't prove this, but I do believe there is such thing as gray hats. And similarly to how like the dark has puppeted, the good people, like over the years, it's like, yeah, the good people have been taken advantage of and bent over backwards for these overlords or controllers or whatever you want to call them. But it seems like, in the last several years, for the first time in history, some of the dark have been puppeted by the good people. Exactly. And so there have been some people, perhaps like Elon Musk, that have a dark past, and like he was born into that. Like he was literally born into the, one of the 13 bloodline families. And like, if you follow Jessie Zaboter, she actually describes instances in their childhood where they were together during their childhood. participating in some of these like rituals and like experiments and stuff like that. Which, again, is not proven, but he definitely comes from, one of those families and from the bloodline families. And but there was a certain point where, I think that it was posted online or something like that for 24 hours, or it's like where Trump was like, you have 24 hours to make a deal. And there were certain people that possibly went to him during that time. What about Cappy? Did Cappy make a deal? Like, that's what I was thinking about this yesterday. Did Cappy make a deal and actually talk to the good guys before he started outing them on Instagram and going live about it? If I were going to out the bad people, I would make sure I was protected first. So I think it's very possible that some of these people like made a deal for protection. And also it's kind of like, it's not just for their life and, hopefully not, it's hopefully saving their life, but also for their salvation. Like literally they're trying to do good. Like they're trying to, I don't know how to put it, but they're trying to like make sure that they can be in God's good graces, repent. Right. Yeah, it's for their own salvation. So we do have to have some compassion, because a lot of these, Jesse's a boater who grew up in the system and has done thousands of hours of interviews over the past 5+ years. She says 95% of them don't want to be there. She's like, they don't want to be there. Like they're literally stuck. So we do have to have compassion for some of these people and understand that some of the gray hats are actually serving a really big purpose for us.
Yeah. And along those same lines, there, like you just said, there's people that don't want to be there. We have to realize that some of the things that we've heard about some of our, beloved stars and things like, people, musicians, they are victims too. I know that's hard to believe because of what we've heard, but we have to remember that a lot of them didn't know what they were getting themselves into, and they got into a really, really bad situation. So, and that's why you see there's all these conspiracies about people still being around, and they had to fake their own death to get to lose that persona so that they could live their lives the way they wanted to. It's really important that at this time in history, we try not to judge everyone based on what we saw or heard in the beginning, because like I said, we don't know the whole story. And honestly, it's just, if I hear something about someone, even now in my day-to-day life, I think, okay, well, that's half the story. What's the other half of the story? And I'm not going to make up my mind until I really know everything that I can know. Now, some of these people we know 100%. They're no good. Like we don't want anything to do with them. We know that. But there's some that you might need to give a second glance to. And they're the things that they've seen or done or been a part of, and now they're repenting. I can't imagine what they're going to have to go through the rest of their life, knowing, what happened or what was done, or, what they didn't say, what they didn't come out for because they were too scared to, or threatened, who knows. So there's so many different things that are happening. It's important for people to take in the information, file it, but just chill. I mean, don't go off the deep end. If you hear one bad thing about somebody, it doesn't make it true. Look at Donald Trump, look at countless people. So, I don't stand behind anybody because I don't know. I can't get inside of their mind or their heart and see what their intentions are. All I know is what I know. And that's kind of where we are at George. We're trying to put people out there and let the public decide what they think, what they feel. And again, find hope in knowing that the truth is going to be revealed and justice will be served. So at this point, if there are still infiltrators, if there is people still out there doing harm, I don't know why they would at this point, because we know the ending. So it's just a matter of time at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on a previous episode, I actually went over one of the recent, like the December cover, and it just seems like there was so many clues in that magazine, and it's just so rich. I love it. Do you want to tell the audience where they can look at the magazine and purchase the magazine?
Yes. So just so everybody knows, our online name is georgeonline.com. That's our website, but we are a physical magazine. You can order actual magazines as well that will be shipped directly to your house. And we have 3 different options if you want to read it. The first one is reading it free on George Online. It's all one word, georgeonline.com. And you can scroll down a little bit and you'll see a flip book. There's different red boxes and you can find, read for free right now, I think is what it says. And you click on that and you'll see the flip book and you can read it for free. And if you want to purchase a physical magazine, there's 2 options. One of them is the $22 issue that can be shipped to your house. Another one is the $175 issue, and that's a commemorative issue. Only 2,400 of those will be printed. And once that 2,400 number is met, they won't print any more of those covers. So that's why it's a little more expensive, because there's just a certain amount of those that will be printed. Each one is numbered as well. So you could get number 185 out of 2,400. They're all numbered on the front cover, so you know which one you got. There are options to subscribe to. A lot of people were having issues figuring out how to subscribe. So there is a video that I created on the George Online website that shows you where to go and how to subscribe. And a lot of people are accidentally subscribing to the commemorative issue as opposed to the regular issue. So just make sure you check the total before you check out, that it's the $21 or $22. I can't remember the specific total, but something around there instead of $175 a month. So there's 3 different options: free, 22, or $175, depending on what you want to spend or not spend.
Who decides the covers?
It's kind of a team decision. We come up with a concept and then we brainstorm with what we want. The veterans issue was kind of a team effort, but Dave Blaze came up with sort of the concept for it. And then the Christmas edition, the Christmas cover, I love, because there's so many different implications you can get from that. When Dave said, I think we should do,
okay.
What was that?
Keep talking. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up.
Okay. When Dave said, I think we should do a Christmas theme on the December cover, instantly I was like thinking, okay, it's going to be the manger. It's going to be the typical, births, the nativity scene type of thing. But when I saw this issue, when I first saw the cover that Mike put together, it's baby Jesus, but it has a lion protecting it.
Love it.
And it gave me goosebumps because there's, like I said, there's so many different implications. Obviously it's Jesus because there's the white cross behind him. The 3 gifts from the wise men are on the ground, but a lion is protecting him. And we know that, lions have been associated with, lions, not sheep. And we know what's been happening with these babies. And so this cover it has different implications. And I loved it. The eyes of both the baby and the lion are Tiffany blue. So we got our little George, Tiffany blue in there. So yeah, it's wonderful. And the topics,
we all want to know the children are being protected. That is so more important than anything else. So yes, that's why this was so touching to me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we're always trying to come up with some covers that will be, thought-provoking, get people talking, and that'll touch people. And really, this cover definitely touched me. Michael Marone, by the way, our cover artist, he's known as the Commander's Artist. He has a website, and I was looking for a bio for him for our bio page in the magazine. I was just looking for something I could use, and I was going through some of the memes on his website, and I found myself tearing up because they were so touching. These things are just memes, but I was like, holy cow, Mike, I didn't know you made memes too. I knew you did paintings and, print art and obviously our cover art, but man, it's pretty touching. There's some crazy ones in there that, especially the ones with the kids, because like you said, that's the most important thing. I think that's probably the thing that made me want to step out of my comfort zone the most, is that. And it's crazy when you tell people about that, or you try to, their reaction is, well, what are you going to do? What can you do about it? What can you do about it? Well, we can talk about it. We can get the truth out there. We can find other ways to get information out to people.
Here's what I'm going to do about it. Not nothing.
Exactly. Yep.
It's like other people are just content doing nothing. It's like, breaks my heart.
Yeah. And imagine if everyone had that attitude.
Exactly.
If everyone had the attitude of, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. We're just all this ship's going down. We're just going to sink with it. I just don't have that mentality. I've never had that mentality. I wasn't raised that way. So here I am.
We're moms.
Yeah,
we're moms.
exactly.
So we're going to protect our young, just like this lion.
Yeah. And if our society can't protect its youth, then what's the point of that society if we can't sustain our children and raise them in a way that makes sense? Now I'm talking about the school systems and the education and what they're being taught there. I just saw a video today where a dad lost his rights. His son was like 2 or 3, and his ex-wife started calling their son a girl, and wants to do like the transition surgery. This kind of stuff is unheard of. It's preposterous, and it's got to stop.
Yeah. And this has a lot of really cool clues on it. Like for me in my episode, when I went over this, I was like, why would George Magazine put in Charlie Ward in the quantum financial system if it was just a conspiracy theory with no teeth? It's like, to me, it gave it a little bit of validity. And I was super excited to see that you guys did an article about the quantum financial system.
Right. I think, I got a lot of hate for that article because people either love Charlie or they hate him. And it's weird because, again, I don't put my trust in man. I put my trust in God. So if I share information from a man, I'm just sharing the information. People can take what they want from it. But it's like they're shooting the messenger, rather than the message. So from what I know of Charlie, I think he has done his research. He encourages everyone to do their research. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. So, and he wants people to question him.
Yeah.
Anybody who says, question me, do your own research, that's a good sign in my book. So,
and you're not saying he has a squeaky clean past and he's never done anything wrong. Like,
right. Well, I don't know anybody. I don't know many people who have squeaky clean pasts that they don't have anything that they wouldn't be ashamed of or sad that they did. I mean, we're humans. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. But here's what happens is we get so focused on something that was done in the past. And now I'm talking about everyone. What the left is really good at is making us focus on this little problem here while this massive elephant in the room is completely ignored. And here we are bickering over this little tiny issue over here while this massive elephant is just hanging out in the room and no one is going to address it. So we really have to be laser focused on the issues at hand, which I can't even talk about right here because we're on a platform that if I mention them, probably get taken down. So I'm not going to say, but we all know what those are. And we need to, as a group, as a country, actually, we need to focus on the issues, the elephant in the room, instead of each other, instead of these little things, instead of things that happened 15 years ago in a person's life that they've paid the price for, or they've done the time, or they've done, does it make it right? Absolutely not. They should never have done whatever they did. and I'm not talking about in general, not talking about a single person here, because I know people are like, who's she talking about? I'm talking about everybody who's ever done anything wrong. This is what makes people scared to run for office, in fact, too, because what they do is they find this one thing that you did wrong. Oh, you had a kid when you were 17, they'll find some stupid thing. Oh, you got a divorce. Oh, you failed this class in college. These silly little things that they're human mistakes. These people are good. They might have learned their lesson. In fact, that helped shape who they are today. And now they're even stronger from it. And now they're like demonizing this person for some mistake they made. So these are just things I think about all the time, that good people are not running for office because of this. They're too scared about, I don't have a squeaky clean. I've heard it so many times from people. I don't have a squeaky clean past, so I don't want to run for any sort of office because I know that. So we're getting these people in there that, have the people in place that can hide those things, or that won't highlight their unclean past. That's just my opinion, but I think it's true.
Yeah, but I loved here too, the Twitter question, when do birds sing? And that was surprising that was there too, because first that gives validity to the Twitter files, I feel like. And then also that was like, there was something in the 17 that said that. Something about when do birds sing.
Yes. Yes, our business editor Scott wrote that with a lot of researchers, friends he has, and these researchers are very, very intelligent. They know how to dig, they know how to find information out. So that article and just the stuff that's coming out from Twitter and Elon Musk, and I think it's brilliant that they had a left journalist, I can't remember his name right now, but that they had somebody like that sharing this information so that the left won't attack the messenger, because it's somebody from the left that's sharing it. It was brilliant. So I think there's a purpose behind exactly how it's done. It had to be done this way.
Right.
I don't know how else it could have been done. So, but I think we're going to be finding out some crazy, crazy things from these Twitter drops. We already have, but there'll be even more.
Bring it on.
I know. I keep
hearing over and over, 2023 years, the year of exposure. And I'm all about that. I'm here for it.
I am here for it too. And aren't you just happy you're awake and you're alive at this time in history? Because the weight of what this is, and just the hope of what, the hope that we have now that we can expose it. I'm so looking forward to the future when all of this is cleaned up and everything is exposed, and we can hopefully move forward the way our country was intended to move forward. So I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward. I just told Dave last night, I said, when this is all out, I'm going to throw myself a party. I just can't wait. He's like, I don't think it's going to come out quite like you want it to. Maybe it'll be more trickles here and trickles there. I'm like, don't tell me that. That's not what I want. I want to hear it all. It comes at the same time. But we have to. They
better do ABS.
I think, we just can't have expectations. We have to trust that it is happening, and that every move that's being made is strategic. Think of how far we've come in just like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. The first time I heard about that 17th letter and all of the different questions that came out of it, I was like, what is this? This is the weirdest thing ever. Yeah. Ever since that came out, people have been asking themselves questions and researching and digging. And I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's a bad thing that people have started uncovering, different things that have been going on in our past for decades. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And
we're alive for the precipice of it. I mean, hopefully we're close to the precipice. If it's going to be another 50 years, I'm not going to be happy. But I think hopefully we're close.
And researching is fun. Like, when you actually have some really interesting things and you're uncovering and you're just like, wait, this leads to this and this leads to this. It has a way of just like breaking open your mind. And like, as we are doing this learning, like we're shattering like previous, beliefs that have been ingrained into us, it's
Yeah.
just like we're shattering the matrix within our own mind. It's really cool.
There's so many different levels of awakening too, because you've got, like a political awakening, but then you have people that are having these spiritual awakenings where they're, coming full circle. Maybe they didn't have that spiritual background, and now you're going to want one. You're going to need one when people realize what's been going on and how long this battle between good and evil has been taking place. I mean, it's just shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about this, if you don't mind. I have one more question. So you are a Christian. Are you a Christian?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so where are you with like the Bible and that whole thing? You know what I'm asking is because a lot of people have learned that some of it has been changed.
Yes. I'll be honest, I didn't grow up very religious. I didn't have a very religious family. I would say I was more spiritual, and I do believe in God. I believe in Jesus, and I believe in good versus evil. There's a lot of things that I believe. I don't have a lot of biblical stories and backgrounds to back up some of the things that I believe. It's just what I believe. I know a lot of people are having a hard time with different, the Bible versus this belief versus this. I mean, right now it's just like everyone's questioning everything. And I'm not focusing on the differences. I guess what I'm choosing to focus on is my relationship with God, my belief in that. And it's led me here for a reason. And I don't know, maybe I haven't realized what that reason is quite yet. But I do give credit to God. I do 100%. I'm not an expert with the Bible. I'll be completely honest. I enjoy hearing the stories. I enjoy hearing everybody's different perspectives. I'm never going to shut somebody down if they're talking about something that I might not agree with. And maybe that's why I am where I am, because I keep an open mind, and I'm, just because someone shares their idea with me doesn't mean that I'm going to take on that belief. I just, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then I file it, and that's that. So what resonates with me is different from what resonates with everyone else. And I think at this point, having a relationship with God would be a great thing for what's going to come. And I think that that's why there's this huge, I don't want to say revival, but there's this huge, people are coming back to God. Maybe that, I went to church when I was in college. I went to Bible studies when I was in college. I did get things out of them, but like I said, I wasn't really, I wouldn't call myself overly spiritual. This whole process has led me right back to being spiritual, talking to God, praying, asking him for forgiveness and asking him for guidance. And, if there's something where I'm leading people this way and I should be leading them here, please help me get myself and everyone else back on the right path. I've even said prayers before I start typing an article. I say, help me figure out, what is the message you want me to share, God? And I'll type that way. I keep that in mind. So I'm not knocking anybody who doesn't believe in that. I think everyone should know inherently what good is versus evil. Does that make people perfect? No, but it just, that probably didn't answer your question at all, because
No, you did.
Because, I do have Bibles. I have one right here, actually. I was just talking to Dave about it. Dave is very biblical, and he shares Bible stories with me all the time, which I really appreciate. And I like hearing these different perspectives, and I like hearing, what's in the Bible. I know the big stories, obviously, but I think it's just a confusing time. People just need to find their own, to talk to God, whether they believe the Bible, not anything. You just need to talk to God and have a relationship with him, because we are going to need it in the coming days, I feel.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're really talking about like you're really connected to your own inner knowing and your own personal connection with God.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, because I've never really been like religious. I guess I've been like more and more spiritual over the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, when I go to the Reawaken tours, it's clear there's people on different levels. There's people that are like, everything is the Bible. There's people that say the Bible is completely manipulated. I'm not going to read it type of thing. So it's just interesting to see how this literally has trickled from a political awakening to spiritual and all other kinds of awakenings. Because now we're questioning like, okay, so what, we know that this isn't real. We know this isn't, we know all those things. So now we're questioning what is real. And I think we should never question God. We should never question the good versus evil battle, because that's true. And a lot of the things that they tried to tell us are not true directly prove that there is a God. And that's why they tried to have us believe that they weren't true. So there's a lot of discussions that need to have. What was that?
And it's clear when you look at Jesus's story. I mean, to me, it's like Jesus was just trying to tell us all along, like, you have your own connection. You don't have to go to a church to find God. Like, God is within you. And it just seemed like that was the whole point of his life.
Yeah.
And for people to go and, like condemn others in the name of religion, I would feel like, I heard someone else say this, it's like Jesus would be like, so not what I meant, guys. So not what I meant.
I know. It seems like there's a fine line. I've noticed like Christians are kind of complacent, because we've been told like, well, if someone does you wrong, don't judge them, like let them, turn the other cheek. And I've heard different meanings of that scripture. I don't know which one's right, because I'm not a scholar with the Bible, but I will say, being Christian, it almost feels like we were taught to be complacent, which is like, oh, well, if someone does you wrong, then just, and I think that some of that was by design, maybe a little bit, rather than fighting back for the things that are wrong and we know are wrong. So there is a fine line between not starting wars, but fighting back to the things that we know are wrong. Does that make sense? Like, it's hard to explain, but.
And calling out wrong when we see it. I mean.
Yes. Yep. We're told not to judge, but that makes us scared to call people out that deserve to be called out. We're told to mind our own business, well, some things shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't mind our own business about certain things, keep quiet about certain things just because that's a Christian thing to do, not judge. And oh no, sometimes we have to fight back. Sometimes we have to stand up and band together and do the right thing, do what's right. So
right.
It's a good question. That's a deep question. I haven't really, to be honest, I haven't really thought like deeply about what I believe. I just believe it. And then, I've never actually explained it. So good question. I will think deeper about that.
Cool. Well, this was awesome. This was so enlightening. I really appreciate your time. You're a beautiful person. I met you at Reckoning Fest, and totally, you're just so awesome in person.
Well,
and
thank you. That was a fun time. Baby
Yes.
Trump knows how to put on a good party, I think. It was really fun. The decorations were beautiful and the people there were awesome. So hopefully he has another one soon.
Yeah, totally good vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And you were there. You started the song with Brent Long, Man of Truth.
Yes. Yeah. So that was crazy because 107 was up on stage and that the cameras were off because obviously Juan doesn't like people recording his face. And so he was talking about the J6 people and the national anthem and how at
Prisoners.
9:00 every day. Yeah. Yes. They sing the national anthem. And he said it right at 9:00. I mean, granted, it was 10 p.m. where they were, but it was 9 p.m. where we were. And I'm like, Brent, it's 9:00. Do we do it? He's like, yeah. I go, are you going to do it? Because if I start singing and you don't sing with me, I'm going to be really mad and really embarrassed. He's like, no, let's do it. So he followed through with what he said he was going to do. And we sang the national anthem and it was beautiful.
And these two people just started singing in the middle of Juan's speech. And he's like, oh, okay. And he
sang. You know what? Juan has a pretty good voice.
Place. He does.
I'm like, Juan, you should have been a country singer. He's got this like kind of Southern, I don't know, deeper country voice, maybe.
Yeah, well, he did a song on Jennifer Mack's channel.
It ain't over yet.
Not over yet. Yeah. That one.
Yep. It ain't over yet.
This is really deep.
I know. He's funny. He still owes me a Megador jacket though for interrupting my speech. I'll never let him forget it too.
I think they're going to send them out actually because they emailed.
Oh, did they?
Text. You may have got an email or a text.
I don't know if speakers did, but trust me, I'll never let him forget.
Yeah, you need your jacket. You got to get your Magador jacket.
Well, Gene said he wants one too, so he's got to send me at least 2.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Yes, thanks for having me on, and I'll see you soon, maybe at another Reckoning Fest, hopefully in the future.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks, Rachel.